So we're going to have a look at some examples of some vision shot on the iPhone 7 Plus using Filmic Pro version 6. Now, one of the new features of version 6 is you can now shoot log and various other flat profiles on your iPhone. Now, I wanted to actually see if this was a worthwhile thing doing and compare it to some other profiles and look at the pitfalls and things you need to avoid if you are going to shoot log on an iPhone. Here's some vision shot in Filmic Pro log. Now I've lowered the shadows in the app because the shadows is where the log curve is actually bringing up the information, but it does tend to produce quite a lot of noise. So again, here is that exact same shot with a basic grade, a film convert LUT used specifically for this purpose, and a little bit of touch up in Color Finale Pro. Again, another Filmic Pro log shot here as captured with the shadows lowered slightly using the gamma settings on the app. And here is a basic grade of that same version. You can still see it still produces a little bit of noise even though the shadows are greatly reduced. Again, Filmic Pro log, same thing, shadows lowered in the app. And here is a graded version of that same shot. Film convert LUT used and basic grading in Color Finale Pro again. So here's the same thing, Filmic Pro log, shadows lowered again. As you can see, not a lot of detail in the shadows, trying to hide the noise as best as possible with this shot. And here's the grade. And as you can see, black is very black. Even if you looked on on scopes, though, you'll see that the blacks are still elevated. But doing that in-app, you're basically reducing the noise and lowering that black level. Straight Filmic Pro log shot as captured, nothing else adjusted. Here's that same shot, graded in Color Finale Pro, very basically. It looks quite nice. Still notice there's a little bit of noise there. Is Filmic Pro Natural, another one of the new settings in there, which I found does a really good job of capturing nice material. Again, here's another shot from Filmic Pro Natural, again graded in Color Finale Pro, just very basic adjustment. Still quite a pleasing image you can get using that profile. Here's Filmic Pro log again. When it gets a bit darker, you'll notice the increase in the noise, very evident in this picture. That log curve really does bring up a lot of noise down in the shadows. There is a graded shot using Filmic Pro Natural. As you can see, still noise there, but it's not as evident as using the log, and to my eyes, you get a very similar result. Again, Filmic Pro log, not a super high dynamic range scene here, so it should be pretty easy, and you shouldn't have a lot of noise because there's not a lot of dark parts in the scene. And here's a graded version of that same shot. This one is using a Magic Bullet film stock look and graded in Colorista 4. Here, darker, Filmic Pro log. I raised the shadows up using the gamma settings and then graded in Colorista 4. You'll notice there's quite a bit of noise in that image. Here is Filmic Pro Natural, slight grade in Color Finale Pro. As you can see, very similar sort of result and a little less noise, but very similar looking image. Again, Filmic Pro Natural, graded in Color Finale Pro. And there's Filmic Pro Natural, graded in Color Finale Pro, and I've used Denoiser 3 here just to get rid of a bit of that noise, and it seems to do a pretty good job. Here's another shot, Filmic Pro log, shadows lowered, not a lot of detail there. Then I'm going to grade up that image, a bit of an extreme grade, just seeing how you could push the image here. But less noise, obviously, when you lower the shadows. Again, shadows lowered here, Filmic Pro log image. Graded up again, probably a bit over the top for my liking, but it shows you the sort of results that are capable. Straight Filmic Pro log, nothing touched. You can see the noise on the headrest there on the left-hand side, quite evident with this shot. Still a reasonable amount of dynamic range. Here's the graded version. We'll be able to crush the blacks down a bit, and not so bad, not too much noise, and you can get a reasonable result from this footage. Here's a shot indoors, Filmic Pro log with the shadows raised up to get a bit more detail, and you'll see how much noise on the left-hand side of the frame there is evident. An awful lot of noise is present in this shot. It's a slight graded version of that exact same shot in Colorista 4. You can still see the noise there even if you bring the blacks back down. You really don't want to lift the shadows up. Creates a lot of problems when using Filmic Pro. Again, here's just another shot, same graded Filmic Pro log, graded in Colorista 4. And now I'm just going to add a bit of noise reduction to that shot. You can see it's not doing a great job. There's still a lot of noise that programs like Denoiser 3 can't get rid of if you raise the shadows using Filmic Pro log. Here's an example of why you don't want to shoot log with the shadows raised, also at high ISOs. Ridiculous amount of noise, an unusable image. Even if I try and apply Denoiser 3, there's nothing it can do to fix this up at all. Filmic Pro log, shadows raised again, just to show you how much noise gets introduced if you want to make it look more like or capture it more like a traditional log image. There's a shot, Filmic Pro Natural. Still got a bit of noise, but not nearly as much as you find shooting log. A pretty good alternative profile to be using, I think. Again, here's Filmic Pro log, shadows raised, graded back down a little bit in Colorista 4. You can still see the noise present on the wall, particularly on the right-hand side in the shadow area there. And again, this is just comparing it to the Filmic Pro Natural, slight grade in Colorista 4. You can still see the noise there, but not nearly as evident as when shooting in the log. Again, Filmic Pro log, shadows raised, graded in Colorista 4. And here's with a bit of Denoiser 3 added. As you can see, it's cleaning it up slightly, but still, it can't get rid of that noise that's there. Here, Filmic Pro Natural, you can see not particularly doing a good job here in this environment. Very dark, very light. It's really struggling with the dynamic range here. If we then shoot in Filmic log, we raise the shadows up. You look at the roof there on the left-hand side, just ridiculous amounts of bad noise that you cannot remove if you capture it like that. Here's what happens if you raise the shadows and try and bring the highlight protection down. The image just gets completely destroyed. It cannot cope. The codec and the processing that's going on there just destroys the picture completely. Again, here's Filmic Pro log, shadows raised and saturation added in-app. And as you can see, even worse, by adding the saturation, the noise becomes even more apparent and you're getting some fixed color noise happening. As you can see that the gray on the building there, this is something that I've found that is happening. That doesn't actually exist in real life. It's producing some sort of weird anomaly on the building. Straight Filmic Pro log, reasonably high dynamic range scene here with some very dark areas, some light areas. As you can see, it's losing information on the right-hand side of frame. Here I've just lifted the exposure slightly so you get more information there in the shadows, but you just end up blowing out the highlights as you can see on the right-hand side of the frame. You can't recover that back. Here's with the shadows raised and the highlights brought down, and you'll see you get that bad sort of color fringing and the pastel colors going on. I don't recommend doing this. It's Filmic Pro log, shadows raised, the highlights brought down and saturation added, and as you can see, very unnatural looking image. It does not hold up well to doing this. This is probably the most pleasing result. Filmic Pro Natural with the shadows lifted very slightly. It gives you a far better result in my opinion than shooting in log in a scenario like this. Again, here's Filmic Pro Natural, just the normal out of the box look. Does a pretty good job. You can still see on the right hand side the highlights are getting blown out and you're getting that sort of pastel color rendition. Here's another shot, Filmic Pro log, shadows raised up and a bit of saturation added. Again, it's sort of adding the saturation in camera app there causes all sorts of problems and you get a weird sort of looking image. Here's Filmic Pro log with the shadows raised up a bit. And you can see fairly flat image, but it's still got that color information. It's doing some weird things. This is straight Filmic Pro log now. As you can see, doing an okay job. Here's Filmic Pro Natural, which as a starting base point to me is a lot better image to be using than the log one. This is a Filmic Pro Flat, another different profile that's available. Very similar to the log in a lot of ways. This is Filmic Pro Dynamic, which looks pretty horrible to me. Very, very contrasty and not a particularly nice image from my point of view. Here's using Filmic Pro, no profiles added. This is just natural, straight out of the box sort of images. You get quite a nice look when you do this, which is nice. Here's Filmic Pro Natural. So, it's not as saturated, but still a pretty good looking image with not too much noise. Here's Filmic Pro Natural with a bit of a grade done in Colorista 4 just to give it a bit more saturation. So you can see the difference that we're getting there. Here we are with straight Filmic Pro log. That's what you're getting as an example. If you wanted to shoot in the log. Here's a graded version in Colorista 4. It does a reasonably good job with this sort of scene here. Not a massive amounts of dynamic range. So here's Filmic Pro log graded in Colorista 4. Just so we compare what it looks like against this one here, which is the Filmic Pro Natural graded in Colorista 4. Very sort of similar looking results you can obtain from both of them. I just find the natural is a lot easier to deal with than the log footage. In saying that, you might think I'm being a little bit overly critical of shooting in log on the iPhone, and maybe I am, but I really think that in a low color space, low bitrate codec, shooting log on any type of camera is fraught with a lot of danger, and you really need to be very careful as to how you expose the image and trying to get it as close to the finished product as you possibly can. Yes, you can actually get some pretty good results with log if you keep the ISO down and if you watch your exposure carefully and you make those little adjustments and try and get the image exactly right when you're recording it in camera. The problem for me is though that the whole point of using an iPhone is that it's supposed to be quick and easy to get good results, and if you have to spend a lot of time stuffing around making little adjustments and settings to get a good image before you hit the record button, it sort of defeats the purpose for me of using an iPhone in the first place. But again, as I said, the log may be a little bit of a gimmick on the iPhone, but it is still very usable, and you can get some reasonable results if you are careful with how you expose and shoot.